Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Prashanth Nair from Bangalore, Yellow Sponge
Hi,
Productions.
Michael.
And we've
Yeah.
just met through an introduction recently, Bimmy Corbett, who's been on my podcast and on my YouTube recently. She's introduced me to Prasanth, and we're
Yeah.
going to have a chat about business and see if we can help each other somehow in business. So, how are you doing today, Prasanth? Are you okay?
Doing very good, Michael. How about you? And great to have connected with you.
Yes, it was great to connect with you as well. I'm doing fantastic. I've actually really enjoyed myself during the lockdown, and actually going to
Yeah.
online and doing Zooms, etc., has allowed me to reach out beyond my traditional real world connections. I do a lot of networking
Right.
around the UK, but now I'm doing a lot of
Yeah.
networking online around the world. What about
hmm
yourself? Are you connecting with people online a lot more these days?
yes, pretty much similar. Across the world, we've kind of moved into a digital world already, isn't it? Although unlike you, I do not do end-to-end training, which means that most of the work that we at Yellow Sponge Productions do is like a supplier to core training organizations, right? So we make learning modules, visual modules, virtual reality content, augmented reality content, and we supply that as a service to various organizations right now across India. So in terms of connecting with the audience, well, the requirement hasn't been as much as what it could be in your case. But yes, in terms of talking to clients, in terms of understanding their requirements, it's again into a digital space. So we do Zoom meetings, we do Google Meets and phone calls, and yeah, that's the new norm, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And the first question I usually ask people when I get them on my podcast and on my YouTube channel is how's the lockdown been for them really?
Yeah.
Have you done anything different in your business? Have you pivoted, to move with the times and that sort of thing, really?
Yeah. And I think most of startups, for example, there's a huge room for pivoting, isn't it? As you establish organizations, well, then you go into different departments. But with a startup, there's a lot of scope if you were to look at it that way, right? To kind of pivot. So just to give an example, the entire year 2019 and starting of 2020, we were actually focusing on coming up with a K-12 product for schools, basically, where we were planning to launch a set of a hybrid learning platform, which was a combination of learning videos and moral values and ethics and life lessons for children from first standard till the junior grade to the senior grade, coupled with team-based activities for them, collaborative environments, uh, that kind of a hybrid module. So now uh, with this, initially we were thinking we would do a B2B where we would sell it to schools, but we're already looking at pivoting it out and seeing if we could directly connect with parents and go the consumer route. So yeah, pivoting of business models is definitely something which most startups, especially in Bangalore, because Bangalore is a hub that way. If you see for India specifically, if you were to ask. So a lot of pivoting is happening around. A lot of digital players are coming into the fore, be it education or healthcare or online consultations, etc. So yes, a bit of pivoting is also happening as we speak.
Yes, yeah. Well, you're in the hotbed of where a lot of businesses are pivoting to, which is a lot of people are looking to do training or education online, and obviously they need to come to
Yeah,
people like you who are going to be able to create that content for them in order so that they can
yeah,
supply that product, that new online version of their offline consultancy or training or whatever they
true,
did previously. They're now going to be able to do that online. So I myself need to speak
true,
to you
absolutely.
about that after this. Because yeah,
Yeah.
there may be something you could do for me, but it's definitely a good space. I've got a contact as well who does gamification. So again, that would
hmm
be quite good for you because sometimes this education and training, sometimes you can
Yeah,
learn it better through gamification, and you can
yeah,
learn more skills that way, especially with younger kids who don't even know they're
yeah,
playing a game and they don't know they're learning something.
yeah, yeah. I think the world is all about making it engaging and immersive, isn't it? I think the line we have to draw is in terms of ensuring that some some of the things which have always remained with us, like the typical brick and mortar schools, for example. If you were to talk about schools, right? So that's not going to go away, and it shouldn't go away, because hybrid is the key. Mixing it up is the right key everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. And I think I was reading this article from one of my dear friends. His name is Dr. Vishal Rao. He's a world famous oncologist, and he was talking about different leadership styles that is emerging, and one of the leadership styles that he talks about is pandemic leadership. Right? And he says, this is a time where you actually test resilience and test innovation. A great read, something which he put up in one of his latest websites. So yes, I think collaboration, not just within a particular space, but across the world, like what we're doing right now, I think holds the key.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I'm a social media marketer, B2B influencer, podcaster, YouTuber, that sort of thing, blogger, and I use all of those platforms because they're all great places to record content and then share that content to all your social media. So it's actually very efficient, like for example, now we're having a networking chat whilst recording podcast content, whilst recording YouTube content. And then once it goes to the podcast and YouTube from both of those platforms, and then record, and I've then got Facebook content, LinkedIn content, YouTube content. Then it goes to Hootsuite and Buffer for reposting after it. So if you work towards clever systems and processes and adopt efficiency into your processes, you can get a lot more action and activity done. So just to give you an idea, I started my podcasting the end of April, and I've done 250 episodes. And I started my YouTube channel. I had other YouTube channels, but specifically for this purpose, a couple of weeks ago, I think, and I've recorded, 50 odd videos. And literally, I just got so much content that I'm only marketing each episode on the podcast and each YouTube video. I'm only marketing them once in every platform. So at some point, I'll go back around again and remarket them. Then I put them into compilation episodes, and it's about repurposing content. And I use the YouTube videos to go onto my WordPress website, and I use the podcast episodes to go onto my WordPress website. And so it's just about, and then you can create lives on Facebook and in Instagram to promote your episodes. So it just creates so much content, that I could probably produce.
Absolutely.
I could probably produce about 10 times as much content as I'm doing now if I had the time. Repurposing it in different ways. But I've got to sort of like just create the content and get it out there. But I'm looking to connect with as many people around the world as possible, because I want to become a global speaker. And I want to be able to speak in multiple countries and teach people, sales and marketing strategies and all that sort of thing. So, if you know any contacts, anyone else I should be speaking to in India, I'm always happy to have a referral and to set up a call. And likewise, if there's anyone I know, I know lots of speakers and coaches and all that sort of thing. So a lot of them would be interested in what you do. So I think you need to send me information and maybe some examples of work that you've done, so I can show some people that I know, and we can see if we can get a bit of two-way, benefit collaboration together,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, I sell quite a lot of sales and marketing solutions and services and stuff. I also do web design with WordPress, and I'm a big WordPress blogger. I could potentially even white label your service and sell it myself in the UK.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
why not?
all sorts of options on the table, really. I tell you something I'm really quite keen of. I don't know if you do a lot of business networking in India?
Sorry, I didn't get you there.
Do you do much business networking in India? Are you well connected to people who do business networking?
Well, yes, but see, a couple of things, right? So one is we have a lot of businesses in India which are family businesses versus a lot of them who are like startups, and then you have the other ones who are already established, right? And you also have the huge outsourced wave that happened 2 decades back. So you have a lot of big, large-sized organizations such as Tesco, for
banks,
example,
financial institutions, insurance companies, and all those.
Absolutely. So as a startup, typically you look initially for your investments and funds, and all your networking and marketing then is directly linked to when you would be able to achieve that. So the initial stages when you bootstrap. You typically go for a small cohort. You look for, let's say, 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 different customers. Let's say if you're looking for schools, you look for 25 to 50 schools, and that is when you start, digital marketing and other marketing. You connect with other marketing agencies and stuff like that. But I specifically feel there's a lot of scope in the space of marketing, because intrinsically we believe, a lot of startup guys, especially if I could speak for them, are the ones who have a lot of content in their head. They're content driven, right? But they're not marketing driven. So they have brilliant products, but they don't know how to market.
Yes,
so there is a
I
void.
get contacted them in the UK. I get contacted in the UK by people who are bad at sales and bad at marketing. And that's because I'm very good at it. So I noticed how bad they are. Whereas some business people, maybe they might be able to get away with it because they're very bad, but people won't notice how bad they are. But I used to run a corporate key account telesales operation in the UK, in Wales, covering all of the UK. And so we used to have to be very good at sales because it's a very competitive marketplace, the UK. And in order to grab people's attention, you've got to be able to be good. You've got to have a good product, and you've got to be able to market it well and sell it well. But I get contacted a lot by businesses in India who are, they must struggle to get any business because of the way their approach. And so I'd like to come over to India at some point. If you know anyone who runs some of these organizations, I'd love to come over and teach them how to sell in the way that would work in the UK better. Because I think there's a massive gap in the market in India, because I come from a corporate sales background. I know the proper way of selling to big companies, to big corporates and all of that. And a lot of the family businesses and the smaller businesses and the startups, they just don't have that experience. They don't, so for example, I get contacted a lot by businesses who, they don't have a USP. They're selling the same thing as the other 2,000 people who ring you. There's nothing different.
Right. Absolutely.
So they're like, oh, well, we do web design, we do apps, we do SEO, we do this, we do that. I'm like, so does everyone else who contacts me? Why should I listen to you? What's the reason that makes you worth doing business with? And so they all need to actually create and work on their marketing message and their unique selling point, their reason why, their mission, their vision, their values, the bit of all of the services they do, the bit that they specialize in or that they excel in, and they need to go and push that really first. That's what I'd love to do is help them to do that, because I think there's a great need for it.
So, Michael, a great place to start, now that we're talking around this particular point, and that too considering the present situation that we all are in, a great place to start would be to have a platform or a setup like you heard about the master classes, right? So something like a master class, for example, and while you will not be able to stand in front of 250 or 2,500 people and talk and kind of help sales people and conduct workshops, typically what used to happen was the other way around. Workshops would first start and then they would slowly move into an e-learning model where you try to then expand and try to maximize the denominator of people or the audience that you could get connected with. I think that has changed. So now it is the other way around. So for us to, kind of have that platform where you can connect and sell your thoughts, because, people should see the value in it. And once that is done, obviously, we then get into the workshop models and, one-to-one models, coaching models and stuff like that. I think that's something which we could even start thinking around those lines on.
Well, definitely. So I'm currently looking to, it's funny you said that. So I've got a domain name called virtual-boardroom. Virtual boardroom. And basically what I'm going to do is set up a masterclass, a mastermind group of people who would be like a PLC board if I was to recruit them from my network. So people I know from network who've got their own businesses, put them together as a mastermind group, like as if they're a board, and get them all to work on each other's businesses and be lead referral partners. So I've got a web domain. I've got to build the website at some point. So I've got the domain registered, and I've set up a Facebook group. and
Right.
I'm setting up a WhatsApp group, and I'm basically going to get 12
Right.
to 15 people to be like a board
Okay.
for each other, but all independent
Yeah. Okay.
businesses. And
Yeah.
then if that works well, and I got a good case study, I may
Uh-huh.
then recruit a mastermind person in every town and city and get them to build their
Yeah.
own virtual boardrooms.
Yeah. 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 Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something. That's
Yeah.
a project I'm working on right now. But yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually also about to create some online training courses. So the timing may be good at the moment for us
Yeah.
to work together. But it's just cash flow at the moment because I can build these things myself, but I know it takes a long time. And if I can get them done offshore at reasonable prices, then I might consider that. It's just in the
Yeah.
lockdown situation, obviously money's tighter, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
pick up a lot
Yeah.
of my business networking, and at the moment I'm doing online networking,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I do a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
events. I'm doing
True.
like 8 events a week, but you can't. I'm a solution seller, and you can't get to the problems of people's problems to give them a
Yeah.
solution because they're just presenting to you their business and they're not presenting to you their problems.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, but
So anything specific to, during these times, because businesses have to run, isn't it, Michael? So anything specific that you're doing right now during these times, which is helping people uh, continue their effectiveness in terms of selling, because that again currently is a challenge, isn't it, with these circumstances, especially for the ones who normally would travel at a higher level, like directors of sales and people who are on the board, for example. I have my friends working in PwC, for example, all sales directors and working out of US, traveling into Mexico, traveling into Netherlands, all these countries.
yeah.
Right now, with all the problems that we have, how do you think, they need to cope with these kind of things? Is something which I wanted to ask you as well.
Well, so how would the sales directors cope with this current situation and pivoting, if you like,
Yeah,
changing,
yeah,
change? Well, ultimately, everybody, the trend that I see right now is people using LinkedIn a lot more. So people are on LinkedIn and they're connecting with people,
yeah,
direct and having direct conversations with people. So, LinkedIn
yeah.
is one of the best social media platforms for getting organic reach at the moment compared to any other
Absolutely.
platform. So
Yeah.
I'm part of a LinkedIn pod, and I'm setting up a few more pods of people who like and
Uh-huh.
comment on your content to help it go further,
Uh-huh.
because you can get it to go
Yeah.
viral
Okay.
by
Right.
getting engagement. So LinkedIn's a big
Right.
one. Also, the problem is a
Yeah.
lot of senior decision makers are on furlough, so they're not
Uh-huh.
working. So, but with LinkedIn,
Uh-huh.
sometimes a lot of people on LinkedIn use their personal email address and not their company one.
Right.
So you can get to
Right.
speak to them sometimes if they're on furlough, even though,
True.
because they'll get a notification in their private emails. Um, so
True.
that's
Yeah.
key. Also, because obviously everyone is going online now, globalization, which was already going fast, is now increasing. The
Yeah.
speed is going up and the velocity is going up
Yeah.
because of online. So if you want
Yeah.
to reach out to like what I'm doing now, reaching out to people around the world and connecting with people around the world, when I was happy to just do that in the UK for pre-lockdown, but now I'm thinking, well,
Yeah.
now is the best time to go global because everyone's online.
Right.
There's no borders, there's
Right.
no restrictions. Where people are. They're
Right.
sat in front of their Zoom all day, or their
Right.
Google Meets.
Right.
So, businesses should be looking at doing things like what I've done. I'm often leading the way in
Yeah.
these things. So if I do something, it's because I believe
Uh-huh.
it's the right thing to do. Things like your
Right.
YouTube channel, your podcast,
Yeah.
all of these platforms
Yeah.
allow you to reach globally around the world at a touch of a button.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
investing in their
Yeah.
social media, investing in their podcasting, their YouTubing, their website, their
Yeah.
SEO, all the traditional
Yeah.
things that have needed to be done in the past. It's just they need to be done
Yeah.
much quicker, much more rapid now because it's an
Right.
arms race. Everyone's competing
Yeah.
now to go
Yeah.
global. There's been lots
Yeah.
of people global
Yeah. Yeah.
before, but this is going to be a
Mm-hmm.
race to a race to globalization like it's never been seen
Absolutely.
before. And
Yeah.
and ultimately, if you're not part of the early, getting early and get quick, then it's going to be a lot harder, a lot more effort, a lot more time further down the line.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. True. Absolutely.
yeah. So like for example, I've always done the odd YouTube video, but now I'm doing like 1 or 2 or 3 a day You know, I've really ramped up
Yeah.
now. Like, you know, podcasting. I started off doing my podcast once a day. Well, I was actually going to do
Uh-huh.
it weekly when I first started, but then I thought I had more
Uh-huh.
to say, and then I started doing it once a day, and I did it 3 times a
Uh-huh.
day, and now I'm going up to. I'm trying to do 10 a day. That's my target.
Right.
So I was easily doing 3 a day, and I thought, well, I like to
Yeah.
give myself a target that's difficult to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, not one
It's
that's easy to achieve, because it's easy to achieve. It's not a challenge. You're not pushing
yeah. Yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to become a global speaker. In order to do that, I've got to grow into the person that I want to become. You
Yeah.
know,
True.
can't
True.
grow into that
Yeah.
person by doing the same thing and being the same person. You got to develop, and you got to push yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's no point just doing
Absolutely.
what you're capable of. You've got to strive
Yeah.
to more than you're capable of until you're capable of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely, Michael.
Yeah. So obviously yourself, I guess you provide your end content mostly to India at the moment. You said, didn't you, earlier?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, mostly
It's
to
it's
Indian
right now
businesses. Yeah.
to Indian businesses. Yes.
Yes. Good. Well.
However, with the with the sorry, Michael. So, however, with the product we're developing for schools, for example, like um, uh, today's kids to know about the juvenile crime and delinquency and safe sex and tobacco usage and harassment and bullying, basic manners and etiquette, and these are things which are which is a need of the hour across the world. So that has potential to go into other markets as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Though
Yeah.
we are very keen to kind of start within India to start with.
Well,
But obviously,
anything that you
our
create,
plan.
for example, anything that you create, I could put on my website, yeah, and then it will
Yeah.
rank better in the UK than it does than it would on your website, yeah, because obviously I'm in the
Right.
UK. So then I can take
Yeah.
inquiries, or we can put a phone number on, and any work that comes through
Yeah.
from putting it on my sites, because I've got 5 websites.
Yeah.
I've got 5 websites.
Uh-huh.
They've all got blogs on. I've also got off-site
Uh-huh.
blogs, etc. So I could use my
Uh-huh.
infrastructure to sell your stuff, and I can make a commission
Yeah.
then for putting it on my sites and stuff. So there's lots of
Absolutely.
ways. And again, you could do the same if you with your site. You could put some of my stuff on there, and then I would rank more
Yeah.
in India than I would do from the UK, because country where the domain gets hosted will
Yeah.
make an impact on where you rank in that country's listing in the Google.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. One of the other areas I've very deeply been engaged in is healthcare, Michael. So we've done a lot of virtual reality based videos for hospitals. We've done live 360-degree VR broadcasting of surgeries. So we call it the continuous medical education. So you have a team of doctors or students or the interns and resident doctors sitting inside big conference hall, and then a live surgery is happening inside an operating room in a hospital, and then you kind of give them an immersive feel by not just broadcasting it live but also making it immersive
yeah,
in the VR 360 mode. So these are some of the things that I feel have an international value. It's
yeah,
not just something which is though everywhere people would be doing it, and competition I'm sure is there, but that's something which I think is something which we could collaborate on as well, because there's a lot of work happening in that area. We are also looking at something like assisted surgeries, for example. We're building a mixed reality product for surgeons specifically, with avatars and do-it-yourself kind of things, where before they get into an actual surgery, they get a chance to practice and stuff. But there are a lot of startups doing that already. That's an interesting space as well. So healthcare is something which could be tapped into. Of course, policies could vary, across
yeah.
countries, like the insurance policies, and whether you pay for your service or not. All these things would vary, but I think the genuine need and the value out of that service and product is kind of international or global, if
Yeah.
we could say that.
But also as well, obviously, all the people you're providing content to, they're all training other businesses, if you like. That's the training sector that are then training other businesses, etc. Yeah. So some of those
Yeah.
people are providing training different to mine, but to people who would also want my training as well. Yeah. So they could
Absolutely.
be
Absolutely.
like affiliates or partners or resellers or introducers. They could be
Right.
introducers to my work, and I could be
Right.
introducers to their work. So you could do a bit of cross collaboration, especially if any of those are looking to get more work in the UK. And I can introduce them to
Yeah.
companies in the UK that may want their training, and they can introduce
Yeah.
me to companies in India who may want my training.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you always have the what happens with in Bangalore, for example, and in India, for example, is people are quite flexible in terms of working around costs, right? So
Yeah.
as a supplier, the buyer is not flexible enough, obviously, because he's the client, right? So he's making a decision of whether to go with you or not. But
Yeah.
as a seller, you kind of your margin to kind of lower your bar, which unfortunately is kind of quite high, because you kind of lower, you kind of come quite close to kind of bag a client, right? So
Yeah.
that's the typical sales call you generally make. I'm sure something which you speak in your sales based sessions as well, isn't it? Now, we could get into that angle as well. So, for example, producing a video, could be X amount of euros or dollars, right? Uh, but the post production of it probably could bear a cost arbitrage if you were to push it to Bangalore, for example, right? So while we may not be able to produce there in London, for example, or in Cardiff anywhere, but what is produced there could be post-produced here uh, at a in a better way,
Yeah.
with better people if there are, and at a cost variance, right?
Yeah.
So these are some of the things which could be done. Like last year I was talking to one of the clients who wanted us to make learning videos on lifestyle, right? Specific to they wanted to kind of acclimatize all the call center agents with the life in UK and Wales, and also US for that matter,
Yeah.
right? And in Ireland and Northern Ireland and stuff. So they wanted us to kind of produce videos of what does a normal day in the life of a store manager look like, or what is a
Yeah.
normal day in the life
So, so, so
of a
that
Michael
people could
Armstrong look like.
understand who they were selling to or who they were marketing to and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So how does their uh, dinner plate look like, right? So what do they do for their free time? What kind of conversations can they have? Now this was a typical use case that had come to us, and then it took us time to kind of find production guys in UK and US, right? So we obviously had to play around with the cost, with whatever budgets the client had, right? But eventually it didn't work out, because now that's the gap, right? So now here we are sitting miles away, but at that time, if we were connected, for example, maybe
Yeah.
we could have had that produced there, right, with the contacts, and it's a win-win situation for everyone, right? Whoever is involved, like someone like you, for example, to kind of help, and then obviously we work out through commissions and stuff, for
Yeah.
me to kind of get that work, and then for the client eventually, who's at the end receiving the benefit of it all,
Yeah.
to be trained, isn't it? So
Well,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
so I'm a study of psychology, and I've been ringing people and dealing with people for 30 years. I'm only 42, but I started at 11. Yeah.
yeah,
And
okay.
I've been managing people since I was 18. Yeah. I've been in
Uh-huh.
sales all of that time. I've met a lot of people. I've done telesales, field sales, exhibitions, networks, all of that. So I could probably
Yeah.
do that for you. So you'll provide those. So I used to do training to my corporate sales team, and I used to tell them
Right.
to get into the how to get into the mindset of the people they were ringing and what to talk about, and and all of that. What are their schedules? When's a good time to ring them? When's a good time not to ring them?
Yeah.
What are their interests,
Yeah.
subjects? So if you like, I'm into all of that sort of thing. So I could definitely help
Yeah.
you with the
Yeah.
designing of those sort of packages, if you like. And so
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
not only could I do training on Zoom and in person in India, which I would like to do. I'd like to come and do training to seminars and stuff when things open up a bit. But we could
Absolutely.
also produce if you like this training content, moduled content
Yeah.
that could
Yeah.
teach people, if you like, about the cultures. Because again, I was based in Wales, but I used to sell all over the UK, so UK and Ireland. Plus, also we had
Yeah.
operations in Europe. So for example,
Uh,
because I was a part of the management team, I was premier account
right.
director, run the corporate sales team. Um,
Right.
so I know quite a bit about the differences in European cultures as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So for
Right.
example, it's quite important to understand how French people are different to British people, and how
Yeah.
Irish people are different, and how Scandinavians are very different. And the
Yeah.
Germans, and there's and then Eastern Europeans. There's certain
Yeah.
parts of Europe that you react and treat them different ways than you would do others. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same as like with India, India's got a lot of different states, isn't it? So again, if I was trying to sell
Yeah.
to India, I'd have to try and get into somebody who understands the culture of India to know,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are the different regions like, or whatever, like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
There is a lot, a lot of parallels that we can draw and kind of, find synergies and kind of work together on. There are absolutely a lot of things that we could,
yeah,
starting from creating content to, producing them to kind of selling them. That
yeah.
entire life cycle of content. There's a lot of stuff that we could work on.
Yeah, but I tell you one of them which would be good because I'm looking at potentially producing some content. Maybe we could do
Uh-huh.
a deal where you could produce me some content, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
and put your branding on there and your contact information, your website, all of that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and I can provide you the
Yeah.
marketing services to market that in the UK
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you like, and because my content, you could design the content that would be suitable for the Indian market and also for the UK market. So we can work on that together. You sort of use your experience for how it needs to be for the Indian market. I could use
Yeah.
my experience for how it needs to be for the UK market. We could dual brand it,
Yeah.
if you like, and get it out
Yeah.
on both sites in both parts of the world and see how the
Yeah.
markets take to it and do a bit of A/B testing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that should be a good start, Michael. I mean, we start with the topic. We could agree on a topic, and
Yeah.
then start from there. That's a perfect starting point.
Oh, yeah,
If you
how
ask.
there's two topics I think that are relevant right now. That's how
Uh-huh.
to how to get the most out of working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are
Yeah.
working from home. So
Yeah.
how they can implement systems, structures, processes in their day-to-day schedule to get more out of their day. And then another one
Yeah.
would be from a leadership point of view is how to manage people who are at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite strange that you're saying this. I mean, I know you did mention that you started managing people from the age of 18, right?
yeah,
So from 2000, I've been working with people, and that's something which I have enjoyed throughout my life, right? Up until now. I'm 41, but the kick that you get out of, or the happiness that you get out of seeing people who have worked with you, who you've coached, and who've reached a level, and who have fulfilling careers. That's the word, you know. And for them to kind of connect with you again, and then that whole cycle of developing people, that's beautiful.
yes,
It's
it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
although yeah, there's this thing in India that's going on specifically, is where you don't have any roles for people managers anymore, because people management is kind of becoming redundant by the day. But I feel it's a very irrationally used phrase, isn't it? Like, you managing people is not only about managing people who report into you, but it's about people around you, right?
Yes, well, you've got to manage up, manage down, manage around. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I think that's the key, right? And so that's not going to die. So I think I was in fact putting down content. Just the previous week, I finished putting down some content on coaching and feedback. Just random content, right? So it's still not structured well enough, but that's out of my own curiosity and interest, not as part of my business plan, or what I wanted to produce from a business perspective. But I was just writing some stuff, and I actually fell upon this idea of putting in certain points around people management, and then looking at different aspects of it, right? Including emotional resilience and stuff. It's strange that you brought this topic up as well. So work from home, how to maximize productivity, how to keep yourself fit, self resilience,
yeah,
mood swings, and which is at the core right now, if you ask. And then obviously leadership skills and people management. Great place to begin.
yeah.
I think there's a lot we can do, Michael. There's a lot we can do.
Yeah, well, let's stay connected. I got
Yeah,
a Zoom limit on how long I can be, so I don't want this to end before I end it, if you like. But we'll stay connected, and we'll
yeah,
keep communicating. You can send me some information, some samples of some of the work you've done, and we'll
yeah.
just develop the relationship on and see where it goes. But I can see it going off in some good, interesting directions. So thanks for coming on my podcast and the YouTube channel. And
Most welcome, Michael. Thanks to you too.
yeah, brilliant to meet you. And there's nothing else left for me to say now other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening.